This exhibition of work by Patrick Heron and Victor Pasmore celebrates 60 years since they both represented Britain at the VIII São Paulo Biennial in 1965. The selection brings together examples by each artist dating from the period 1952 to 1964. Many of the works were included in the original São Paulo show, and together they give a sense of the scale and impact that the original display had on an audience largely unfamiliar with British modernism.
The São Paulo Biennial was set up as an alternative to Venice, much later in 1951, shortly after Venice had been revived after the war. The 1965 version made a new commitment to contemporary art. Pasmore and Heron were at the peak of their achievement. Pasmore had just had a major retrospective at the Tate Gallery. Heron had been showing in London at commercial galleries and in New York and in Europe. Heron was in his 40s, Pasmore was in his 50s, so they were both highly successful leading figures. Pasmore in particular, in the 1950s, had become the sort of leading proponent of sort of revived constructivism in Britain, so he was seen very much as a kind of senior figure, having been well known as a kind of representational painter and promoted by Kenneth Clark, his great patron. It's interesting to see them in the context of São Paulo. I think you could see a generational shift maybe in the way the British Council were approaching it. Every São Paulo Biennial up to that point, apart from one, had shown British art to be a kind of figurative, slightly kind of angsty existential art. Barbara Hepworth in 1959 was the only abstract artist until Heron and Pasmore.
Although the aesthetic differences between Heron and Pasmore's work are stark, both artists shared a rigorous approach to their practice, which allowed them to push the boundaries of abstraction down untrodden paths. Heron exploring the visual complexities of colour, and Pasmore that of space.
There is a significance that Pasmore developed before the Second World War, whereas Heron really only came to maturity after the war. At the same time, they have something which is not kind of very British, but very European, or Heron would say very European. They're very intuitive in their approach. I mean, Heron in particular, there's a wonderful footage of him painting, just going up to bare canvas and just starting with the brush. Pasmore was much more sort of measured and calculated, and he loved kind of geometric proportions, particularly the golden section. We don't know what the British show looked like in São Paulo. We know for a fact that no official photographs were taken. We know Patrick Heron did visit, and we know he took a camera. Presumably he did photograph the show, but they're lost. We can only speculate whether the works are integrated as they are here, or whether they were shown in two separate rooms.
The significant influence that they each had on the development of abstract painting in Britain and beyond was recognised by their selection for the biennial, and their shared artistic values and common interests made them as exciting a pairing in 1965 as indeed they remain today.